For the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. The invocation this evening will be offered by Pastor John McCullough of the Woodland Presbyterian Church. He's the guest of Vice Mayor Diane Neighbors.
Let us pray. O God, amid the wondrous diversity of this metropolitan community, we, your children, know you by many different names, and we conceive of you in very different ways. But we all are dependent upon you for the courage, the strength, and the wisdom we need to live most responsibly, most faithfully, the lives you give us. As the members of this council come together again this evening to do the work, very important, but sometimes quite thankless, that they share. Give them the courage, the wisdom, and the strength they need to do that work most responsibly, most faithfully. Give them patience and mutual forbearance as they hear the input from fellow citizens, as they debate among themselves the merits of the bills that will come before them. Help them value the process of true collaboration, aware that our ability to work most effectively with one another in the future is strengthened as we lessen the way in which decisions made today cause some to feel like winners, but others like losers. Help us all as we participate in the political process to put the common good above our individual desires and benefit. And keep us always mindful of that truth that all our varied religious traditions teach, that what you expect of us is that we always seek greater justice, compassion, and peace for the whole of your beloved creation. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, we will suspend the calling of the roll tonight and ask the clerk to record the names of those members present during the course of the meeting. I will point out that we're tight on a quorum tonight, so I know a couple of you said you were sick and were here to help us with the quorum, so unless you're really sick, please try to stay for the entire meeting. Is there a motion for the adoption of the minutes of the meeting of May 21, 2013? The minutes of the meeting will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
Thank you. At this point, I would like to call on Councilman Anthony Davis for a motion regarding the continuation of tonight's meeting after its adjournment. Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. I move that when we adjourn this meeting, the council adjourn to Tuesday, June 11, 2013 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of considering ordinance number BL 2013-467, the capital improvements budget for fiscal year 2014, on third and final reading, along with the mayor's capital spending plan, resolution number RS 2013-710, and any other matters the vice mayor deems appropriate for consideration at that time.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Thank you. We do have one quick announcement. You should have seen on your desk a notice regarding a vacancy with the Community Education Commission. Please note that nominations to fill this vacancy must be submitted to the clerk's office not later than 4 o'clock next Tuesday, June 11, 2013. Nominees will be referred to the Rules and Confirmations Committee for a recommendation, and the appointment will take place at our June 18 regular meeting of the council. And remember, this nomination is for this vacancy must be a representative of a nonprofit literacy organization. I now would like to call on Councilman Ronnie Stein for a motion dealing with a proposed rule change. Councilman Stein.
I think I need a committee report first, please.
Councilman Davis.
Yes, Rules Committee voted 4 0 against.
Thank you. Councilman Stone.
I move approval with a brief comment.
Second.
I have a second. Councilman Stone, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, members of the council, this rule changes our current rule in which we call a special public hearing to require that that public hearing take place one meeting prior to the council's vote with a public notice to be included. I would also remind the council that if there is an extraordinary circumstance ever at a meeting, we could always suspend the rules to hear from an individual. But I think this is perhaps a little bit fairer way to do it because it does provide a lot of public notice that's not currently in our rule, and I would ask your support.
Thank you. This will require a machine vote. So, Madam Clerk, will you please open the machine, and members, will you please record your votes? Has everyone voted? Okay. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the vote.
34 ayes, 0 no, 0 abstentions.
Thank you. We now are at the point of our agenda for confirmations and elections. Councilman Anthony Davis, is there a report from the Rules and Confirmations Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, from the Electric Power Board this evening, we had a first-time appointment of Ms. Irma Paz Bernstein, and the committee recommended her approval, 4 0 against. I'd like to move her approval.
You've heard the motion for confirmation of Ms. Irma Paz Bernstein to the board of the Electric Power Board. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is adopted. Councilman Davis.
Next, from the Human Relations Commission, we had the reappointment of Mr. King Hollins. We had the reappointment of Ms. Sharon Kay. Both were recommended by the committee 6 0 against, and I'd like to move their approval.
I'm sorry, what's... Will you repeat that one time? There were just two?
Yes, we are deferring 3, so I was going to defer separately. We had 2 for approval.
So it was Sharon Kay and...
King Hollins.
Okay, great.
Committee approved 6 0 against.
All right, you've heard the motion for confirmation of Mr. King Hollins and Ms. Sharon Kay for the Human Relations Commission. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion's adopted.
Also for the Human Relations Commission, yes, we're going to defer the reappointment of Mr. Mark Baugh, Ms. Alastair Newbern, and Mr. Don Peterson. I'd like to request a 1-meeting deferral. The committee recommended this 6 0 against.
We have a motion for deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
From the Sexually Oriented Business Licensing Board, we had the first-time appointment of Mr. Jonathan Richardson. Committee recommended approval 6 0 against, and I'd like to move his approval.
You've heard the motion for confirmation of Mr. Jonathan Richardson to the Sexually Oriented Business Licensing Board. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted.
For the Traffic and Parking Commission, we had a reappointment of Reverend Briones Mitchell. We had a first-time appointment of Miss Mary Vavra. Committee recommended both 6 0 against. I'd like to move approval.
Thank you. You've heard the motion for confirmation of the Reverend Briones Mitchell and Ms. Mary Varva for confirmation to the Traffic and Parking Commission. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
And finally, this evening for the Metro Transit Authority, we had the reappointment of Mr. Thomas Freddie O'Connell, and the committee recommended his approval 6 0 against. I'd like to move approval.
You've heard the motion for confirmation of Thomas O'Connell to the Metro Transit Authority. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion's adopted.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to recognize these citizens who were confirmed. If you will please stand as I call your name and remain standing until all have been introduced. First, to the Electric Power Board, Ms. Irma Paz Bernstein. To the Human Relations Commission, Mr. King Hollins and Ms. Sharon Kay. To the Sexually Oriented Business Licensing Board, Mr. Jonathan Richardson. To the Traffic and Parking Commission, Reverend Briones Mitchell. and Ms. Mary Varva. And to the Metropolitan Transit Authority, Mr. Thomas O'Connell. We thank you for your willingness to serve our government, and we are lucky to have appointees of such high caliber. Thank you. At this time, we need to ask everyone in the gallery to please get in a seat if they can. If not, I think you have to stand in the hall. So if you can squeeze in.
He's a lot nicer.
This brings us to the point on our agenda for our bills on public hearing. The first is BL 2013-448. Sponsor is Langster. This changes .49 acres from R6 zoning to OR 20 zoning for property located at 602 33rd Avenue North. Councilmember Langster.
That would be funny.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. If I could, I'd like to clarify a remark I made during the announcement time.
Sure.
I asked that we extend condolences and sympathy to the Reverend James Turner family. Reverend James Turner family. I inaccurately gave the wrong name. At this time, I would like to ask you to open the public hearing.
Right, we will open the public hearing. If you're in favor of this legislation, please raise your hand. If you're in opposition, please raise your hand. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in favor wish to speak? Seeing no one wishing to speak, the public hearing is closed. Councilmember Langster.
At this time, I'd like to move for approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next is BL 2013-449. Sponsor is Councilmember Scott Davis. This changes .34 acres from RS5 to SP zoning for properties located at 904 Chickamauga Avenue and 941 West Eastland Avenue to permit a mixture of uses including full-service restaurant, retail, office, and personal care services, in addition to single and two-family residential. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing. All in favor, please raise your hand if you're in favor. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Those in favor wishing to speak, please line up at the lectern. Those in opposition wishing to speak, please line up at the lectern. The way we do our public hearings is you have 3 minutes to speak, and the proponents will go first, and these are the opponents. So, but that will apply to the entire public hearing. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I would like to know, on this rezoning, it will not affect the historical area of Greenwood, and also, when we rezone this, parking is a big problem in our area, and we would like to know what would be done about the parking.
Councilmember.
It will not.
And we also, the procedure going forward is when you come to the lectern, please state your name and address.
Okay, I'm Arlinda Frazier. I live at 947 West Eastland Avenue, and 949 West Eastland. And that's where our parking issues are with the restaurant and everything. So with the rezoning of this, how will he handle the parking in this area?
Right. He will respond to your comments when you finish. Are you finished with your comments?
Yes, uh-huh.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. It's not going to affect the historic look of the buildings. The buildings are going to be staying the same. It's not going to affect anything historical going on. More importantly, it's going to create more parking because right now, they're not allowed to use other parking because it's not zoned commercial on the property. And by rezoning this, it's going to allow the creation of 35 more parking spots, which is going to help with the alleviation of the parking problem. Because Codes has been fining the business owner because it's not zoned properly, so parking has not been there's not been any parking on these parcels because of that. But now with the rezoning, we're going to be allowed to have parking on the commercial property now with these 2 new lots.
Thank you. You want to renew your motion?
Like to motion to close the public hearing.
Right, and just move the bill.
Like to move it forward.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next on our agenda is BL 2013-450. The sponsor is Councilmember Weiner. This amends 7.96 acres of the Woodbury Planned Unit Development Overlay District located at Woodbury Falls Drive, unnumbered, west of Old Hickory Boulevard to permit 19 single-family lots. Councilmember Weiner.
Open public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in favor of this. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Does anyone in favor wish to speak? Please come to the lectern and remember to state your name and address.
My name is John DeWall.
Sorry,
I'm the civil engineer for this project, and the developer, Fred Stevenhagen, is here with me in the audience, and we are available to answer any questions that you might want to inquire of us, and just wanted to let you know we're here for that.
Thank you. Those in opposition wishing to speak, if you'd like to, please line up at the lectern. Councilmember Weiner. I will close the public hearing. Councilman Weiner.
I'd like to move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-453. Sponsor is Councilman Holloman. This changes 3.12 acres from CS zoning and RS 7.5 zoning to SP zoning for properties located at 332 and 322 54th Avenue North and 323 53rd Avenue North to permit up to 40 residential units. Councilman Holloman.
Move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in favor. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in favor wish to speak? I will now declare the public hearing closed. Councilman Holloman.
I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. The final bill on public hearing tonight is our capital improvements budget. It's Bill 2013-463. The sponsor is Councilman Matthews. This adopts the capital improvements budget and program for 2013/2014 through 2018/2019. Councilman Matthews.
I move to open the public hearing.
We'll now open the public hearing. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed, please raise your hand. Those in favor wishing to speak, please line up at the lectern. Remember to state your name and address. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, my name is Sharon Hurt and my address is 6316 Willow Oak Drive. I support the mayor's capital improvement budget and more specifically the bus rapid transit project, the AMP. When I first learned of the AMP, I was convinced that it was another project that was exclusive and only benefit to a select few. I have come to realize while the project's inception is in a majority area, a successful AMP will bring additional service to all areas of Nashville, including those close to my heart, the Jefferson Street, Rosa Parks, and North Nashville area. I am confident that this will happen because of the success of the MCC and Omni, where women, minority, and small business owners received 1/3 of all contracts and reached 40% of women, minority, and small business contracts, respectively. This project will be yet another major development that will produce jobs and opportunities for all Nashvillians. If this budget is approved as presented, it will be a great day for this city. For the city will officially have a workforce development program that will provide job opportunities for our local community, jobs for people in the pockets of poverty and all over the city, which will strengthen our economy. The AMP will also provide a great service for our tourist community, a community of people who strengthens the economy of this city that provides jobs for local people who buy homes, pay taxes, and build cities, one job at a time. Proponents of environmental justice generally view the environment as encompassing where we live, work, and play, and seek to redress inequitable distributions of environmental burdens such as pollution, industrial facilities, and crime. Environmentally, Nashville can be a forerunner to other major cities and lead by example in a project that will improve our environment both from a green perspective and from a black, white, brown, red, and yellow perspective, with all areas benefiting from Nashville's progressive leadership and foresight. The AMP will do just that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Monet Bell. I am a commissioner on the Metro Historical Commission and the representative to the Metro Historical Zoning Commission, therefore serving on both boards. My residence is in historic Germantown in Council Lady Erica Gilmore's district, so thank you, Council Lady, for your diligence in serving your constituents. Thanks to each of you for your time and wisdom serving in your respective districts. I originally planned on attending tonight because of a capital improvement budget item that would have led to the relocation of MHC and MHZC away from the historic Sunnyside. However, I understand that the chairman's substitute budget includes a stipulation that MHC and MHZC remain at its current location with an additional staff person that will support the operations of the one-stop shop. On behalf of MHC and MHZC, a sincere acknowledgement and thanks to the Metro Council Budget and Finance Committee on this reasonable solution in the substitute budget. Their proposal supports the continued existence of the MHC administrative and operations offices in the historic Sunnyside Mansion, located in Sevier Park in the 12 South neighborhood and district. This neighborhood, among 23 others, have thousands of properties designated within a conservation overlay or historic overlay district. We respectfully request the council to approve this substitute budget in support of the MHC so that the goals to which it is intended can continue to serve the best way it can to serve our great city of Nashville, its residential and commercial developments, and surrounding benefiting counties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Adam Lister. I'm Policy Director with the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce, located at 211 Commerce Street in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm here today in support of the funding for the AMP bus rapid transit system included in Mayor Dean's proposed capital improvements budget. Last year, a membership survey conducted by the Chamber found that expanding mass transit in the region was a top priority, and the implementation of the proposed east-west connector bus rapid transit system was preferred above any other option, including the additional lanes added to existing roads. When considering what we want our quality of life to be for the people here today, for those looking to move here in the future, the young, the elderly, without any other way to get around, we believe we need the AMP and mass transit more now than we ever did before. It's about economic sustainability as well as economic development. A reliable transportation system such as the AMP is critical to remaining a competitive destination for new jobs and economic development. That's why transit is one of the Chamber's top priorities after education. The time to address Nashville's transit issue is now. Nashville was recently named America's new boomtown city by AOL and the second best city for jobs in the country by Forbes. These and other distinctions represent tremendous growth in Davidson County, and we expect this growth to continue, adding more than 1 million new residents to the area by 2035. We must take the first steps today to prepare for growth our city will experience over the next several years. Ultimately, this proposal makes good business sense for Nashville, and that's why we support it and ask for you to do so as well. To remain prosperous, we need to stay focused on our needs as a whole community. Consultants often cite mass transit or lack thereof as an issue when locating to Davidson County. This is important because we need a workforce to continue to grow, and workers need mass transit. In other cities, enhanced transit services have created economic growth by attracting new business to the area and leading to new development, especially near transit stations. Successful implementation along the proposed corridor will serve as the backbone of a system that will connect workers with jobs, visitors with many of experiences available in all parts of the city, and enable Nashville to remain competitive for corporate relocations, development, and new jobs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jim Forkham, 542 Manise Lane, Madison, Tennessee, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm also here as a previous speaker before the last one to speak on the Metro Historic Commission and thank the council for their support. We were a little concerned with the moving away from the historic Sunnyside. I think with Councilman Matthews, Chairman Matthews, the Budget and Finance, and some other council members who have spoken. I know it's in Council Lady Moore's district, but certainly with the support to put a staff person to do the one-stop shop, and to also keep us at historic Sunnyside, where so many good things happen with where the commission, but two commissions operate, really, the Metro Historic Commission and the Zoning Commission. So basically, I'm just here to really thank you for your support and hope that you will continue to support the Alton budget, which, like I said, Councilman Matthews has included these things that will keep us where we are. And we appreciate that very much. And I'd like to, if I could just mention, we have a couple other people. I know we're not going to parade everybody up here, but David Curry with the Historic Commission is also here, one of our historians, and Paul Clement, and both those folks are here as well. And I appreciate your service to our city. Councilman Pridemore is my councilman, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman.
Good evening. My name is Michael Large, 121 Steeplechase Lane, Nashville, Tennessee. I am the construction manager for Alec S. Palmer & Company. My office is at 1801 West End Avenue, and I'm also the construction manager for the West End Summit project. As representative of the Alex S. Palmer Company, we would like to assure you that we are very much in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Charles Bone. I'm the chair of the Transit Alliance for Middle Tennessee. While I live in Hendersonville, my office has been in downtown Nashville almost forever, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you on behalf of the Transit Alliance. This is what we've been waiting for 3 years. A number of us, and some of you all, went to Denver several years ago to see what they were doing with transit. We came back, and with the help of you all, many of you, and the mayor, we formed the Transit Alliance to cover Middle Tennessee, 10 counties, and to say the one thing we need to do to prepare for the next million people who are coming to this area is to get moving on transit. And this is where we get moving. This AMP project covers what I would suggest to you is the main street of Tennessee. And when you think about what is on this route and what will be covered by this route, it is literally the main street of Tennessee. And this is where it needs to start. We've got 170,000 people who work along this corridor. We're going to have tourists from all over the world, more and more. We're going to see a lot of those here this weekend trying to get around. And we're going to see what actually can happen when you move forward with transit. So I ask you for your support for the AMP and your support for this budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm David Kleinfelter, live at 2904 23rd Avenue South. It's a pleasure to see some familiar faces. My councilman, Mr. McGuire. I really want to speak on 2 or 3 things. I just happened, it's pure coincidence, I'm the first one rocking the t-shirt up here, the AMP t-shirt, but I do want to speak in favor of 2 or 3 things and basically ask you to support the capital improvements budget as it's being presented to you. First is, of course, the AMP. I'm fortunate to have an office that I can see over Broadway and actually up 5th, where at some point it may come, and it's really exciting to see the convention center being finished and knowing that what this would do is help take those tens of thousands of people here who are going to be in at any given moment for conventions and help them get and spend their money in other parts of the city and move around some in a very sustainable way. And speaking of sustainability, the other two items that I should have mentioned, I'm an attorney with Reno and Kavanaugh, but I'm also president of Walk Bike Nashville. And so in addition to strongly supporting personally the AMP and the funding for that, I also support the bicycle and pedestrian funding that is in this capital improvements budget. That's very important. Having a well-balanced transportation system is essential to Nashville to keep growing as it has been, and just leaps and bounds ahead of apparently the rest of the country. I think we sometimes forget here because things are going so well that it's not going that well everywhere else. And part of that is because young people, much younger than me, want to move here and use different forms of transportation than driving from point A to point B. Brag a minute, last month was bike month. I biked 17 days to work last month, and lots of people bike more than that. And again, they're lots younger than me, and they're going to make this city grow and become the even greater city. The other thing, it's totally unrelated to those others, but having worked at planning for 7 years, the one-stop shop is a long needed and wonderful idea. I know there's some people who have some concerns about other things that have to move. Space is limited. You can't have everything in one place. Having that one spot, I now represent developers and know that going in and being able to go one place and other cities do it, it's going to be a great improvement. So I request you support that, the bike ped, and the AMP. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. My name is Greg Atkins. I'm the president and CEO of the Tennessee Hospitality Association and the Greater Nashville Hospitality Association. I live at 605 Hogan Road. Our office is at 475 Craighead Street in Nashville. Mr. Harmon is my councilman. I appreciate all the service that you do for our district. It's an honor to speak before the Metro Council. What you do is very time-consuming, and I respect you very much what you do on a daily basis. On behalf of the Greater Nashville Hospitality Association Board of Directors, I'm here to tell you that our board has voted unanimously to support the Bus Rapid Transit Project, the AMP. I have a letter that I would like to submit to the record, if that's okay, from our association supporting the project. The association submits that this project is vital not only to Nashville citizens, but to the tourists that come here on a daily basis. Vibrant hospitality cities have mass transit options such as BRT for tourists to use. Frequently, a visitor will only return to a city if it's easy, friendly, clean, and fast. And with our traffic situation going on in Nashville, this is one of the only options that we have. Specifically, we are asking for the Metro Council to support the mayor's budget and the BRT funding for the AMP. From a hospitality business perspective, this could be one of the most important projects that the city votes on since the Music City Center. The number of visitors coming to Nashville every year has been growing at record rates recently. We just opened the doors of the new Music City Center, putting us in a perfect position to pass our competitor cities and see tourism industry grow even more. The Music City Center will increase the number of people who visit our city, and it's expected that we're going to have an additional 550,000 people come to our city to visit. Just as we invested in Music City Center at the right time, it is the right time to invest in this particular project. The AMP will serve the heart of Nashville's tourism industry, our restaurants, our music venues, Bridgestone Arena, LP Field, and the Music City Center. This is a vital link linking East Nashville, downtown, and West Nashville. As more and more visitors come to Nashville each year, we need to make it easier for them to get around to our city, and we need to make sure that they return. So, I appreciate your service again to the city. I appreciate your support for the project, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Andre. I'm the general manager for the Hutton Hotel located on West End Avenue. I live at 1309 Ordway Place. I'm also currently a Greater Nashville Hospitality Board member. I'm on the GNHA Executive Committee and their chair of their education chair. On behalf of the Hutton Hotel and our company, I'm here to support the Mayor's Capital Improvement Budget and the Bus Rapid Transit Project, the AMP. The AMP project is very important to the continued success of the hotels along the West End corridor. The hospitality industry is the second largest industry in Davidson County. With a direct tourist spending of $4.3 billion, and our industry collects approximately $306 million of state and local taxes in Davidson County. Specifically, between downtown and the West End corridor, there are 41 properties with over 7,000 rooms and thousands more under construction or in the pipeline. The AMP project is critical to maintain our current business investment and allow the hotels and the businesses on the West End corridor to continue to thrive. The hotels on the West End corridor need the AMP to accommodate the growing demands of our group and transient guests and provide better access for our associates. Demand for our properties in the West End corridor is growing, and we need the AMP in order to continue the momentum. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to our business voices and ask you to vote in favor of the capital improvement budget and the AMP BRT project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Judy Freudenthal, and I live at 1005 10th Avenue North, and I work at Oasis Center as the Director of Youth Engagement and Action, and I'm speaking on behalf of youth tonight in support of the AMP. So many studies now show that young people are using cars far less. Some of that's because they want to be green. Some of that it's because they want to use social networking, and it's better to do that while not driving. And some do that because there's no way they're going to be able to afford their own transportation of a car and the fuel. We serve 3,000 youth a year, and predominantly those young people and their families are living in poverty. And we started the Youth Opportunity Center, which is 9 nonprofits under one roof, to close the opportunity gap for all youth so that all youth have access. But that only gets them so far. We need the AMP so that young people can make it to other parts of the city in reliable, efficient ways, and have access to jobs, internships, other nonprofits, cultural events, those matters that help enrich their lives and give them an equal chance. We have a bike workshop that we started that has at least 500 youth out on bikes because we realized that a group of young people who lived right around Shelby Park had never been there, and they lived within 2 miles. And we realized this is really tough when young people are locked into their neighborhoods, when there's such a really rich and vibrant city that they need to take advantage of. And bikes can only get them so far too, and this is just another step. We've been working with the MTA because they see the importance of cultivating a youth ridership, and the AMP will amp that up. Anyway, so on behalf of the young people who can't afford cars, this is going to be something that levels the playing field. So thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Randy Rayburn. I'm a resident of 2113 19th Avenue South in Council Lady Berkeley Allen's district, and I'm an owner of 3 restaurants, one of which is in the West End corridor. Additionally, I serve on the Greater Nashville Hospitality Association board. My role here today is to remind you, as others have spoken, that our hospitality tourism industry, both downtown and in the West End corridor, are a vibrant part of our city, and we need to be able to connect those elements to each other. For me, it's not just about Sobro, it's about 5 Points, the mixed-use retail entertainment district there, which is vibrantly growing and will be expanding in Peters District, as well as the ongoing additional 1,500 hotel rooms under construction or approved in the West End corridor. There are over 15,000 restaurant seats in the Midtown West End area, growing seemingly every day, and I would only urge you to create a level playing field not only for my employees and our local customers, but our over 10 to 12 million guests a year who come to visit Nashville and leave their sales tax money here while we can grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tony Phillips. I'm the general manager of Lowe's Vanderbilt Hotel, located at 2100 West End Avenue. I'm also a Greater Nashville Hospitality Association board member. It's a pleasure to speak before the council this evening. Thank you for your time. On behalf of Lowe's Vanderbilt Hotel and Lowe's Hotels and Resorts, I am here to support Mayor Dean's capital improvement budget and the bus rapid transit, the AMP. This project is important to our company and our hotel. It will play a critical role in serving our guests and probably most importantly, our employees. Specifically, it is vitally important that the West End corridor be the chosen route to serve our workers and tourists for the hotels on West End. We are asking for the Metro Council to support the Mayor's capital improvement budget, and specifically the BRT funding for the AMP. Our company, Lowe's Hotels, has been committed to Nashville for several years, beginning with a legacy of almost 30 years of service at Lowe's Vanderbilt Hotel. We recently finished a $17 million hotel renovation. In 2010, Lowe's Hotels committed $11 million to build a shared service facility here in downtown Nashville. Combined, we have over 500 employees here in Metro Nashville, so we appreciate your support this evening.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Clements. My property is at 258 Cana Circle. I want to address the location potentially of Sunnyside. It needs to stay where it is, in my opinion, Emily. I've spent the last 11 years fleshing out the early history of Nashville, so you can tell I'm probably not right in the head anyway. But what I've found is we have a terrific story to tell here, and I've probably been more intimately associated with the governmental facilities dedicated to our history than anybody around, and that includes the Metro Archives, Historical Commission, and it's a beleaguered group, and this is just one more example of just the attempt to move it. And I really think we have an incredible story to tell, and I think over the next year or two, you folks will, I'm hoping, get more and more open to seeing what we have here to offer. And if folks who are only interested in money, there's a lot of money that can come from this as well. But the big picture, I guess, is that I've noticed this, there's a little strain of government that doesn't really care about history. And I'd like to think that isn't true. Of course, I'd like to think I had all my hair and I didn't have love handles, but that hadn't worked out either. But I'm hoping that you all will be open to being a continued friend of history, because it needs it, and it's an underserved group. And I thank you for whoever's responsible for opening up the possibility of not leaving Sunnyside. Thank you for doing that, and if you will vote so it stays there, that'll be wonderful. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Hopton. I live at 1903 Fatherland Street, and I'm the executive director of the Center for Independent Living of Middle Tennessee. The Center for Independent Living of Middle Tennessee is an advocacy group that works with folks with disabilities of all ages and all disabilities. And one of the opportunities that mass transit creates for our consumers is the opportunity to get to work, to go out and participate in all the events in the community, to go shopping. And it's the only opportunity many of them have. Most of our consumers don't drive. So all the improvements that have been made in the past with mass transit and the BRT capital improvement program is something that'll be of great benefit to folks with disabilities in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Adam Nicholson at 37209 in Sylvan Park, and I'm here with the Board of Transit Now Nashville. We want to thank the council for all the progress made so far with transit in our city. This past weekend, I was just showing some out-of-towners around, and we made great use of the free circulator bus. So it's great to hear that there are plans to upgrade the circulator with zero-emission vehicles. In regards to the AMP, it's been reported some business owners have raised concerns about losing some on-street parking along the corridor. Many of those spaces are only available during off-peak hours. Additionally, in exchange for 2 to 3 on-street parking spaces in front of your business, the AMP will deliver 25,000 potential customers to the front door every week, customers who do not need a parking space. The current selected corridor is the obvious choice for a successful BRT project because of the number of destinations, jobs, and people living on the corridor. That density and diversity will be the key to winning the federal grants. We have to build the backbone of the system before proceeding with the rest of the system. BRT is the best bang for the rapid transit buck. The proposed AMP will serve an area almost twice as large as a light rail or streetcar project would have for the same amount of money, while attracting virtually the same ridership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cliff Lippard. I live at 1427 Greenwood Avenue in Councilman Westerholm's district. I'm also on the board of Transit Now Nashville, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the AMP. Just want to add to what Adam's already said that we see the AMP as the start, a very good start to a larger regional system. We think it'll be the backbone of the system that was envisioned in the MPO's regional transit plan that was passed unanimously in 2010. We think this system is necessary because Nashville is growing. We've been successful, and if we're going to continue to be successful, we need to continue to invest in our quality of life. We need to continue to attract top employers, top employees, and we need to raise ourselves to the next level as a tourist venue. And speaking of tourists, I was just thinking, later this week when Midtown and Downtown are jammed bumper to bumper with CMA fans, just think to yourself how nice it would be if half of them had their cars parked in their hotels and they were on public transit instead of sitting in the street keeping you from getting home. As public transit and BRTs go, as public transit goes, BRTs are an excellent investment. I just want to give you the example of Cleveland and their 6.8-mile health line. For a $200 million investment in that line, they've had over $4 billion in economic development. It's a 1,900% return on investment. They've also done much better than projected in ridership. They initially projected 1.5 million riders per year, about the same as what we're projecting for the AMP, and they've already had over 4 million riders per year as of 2011. We're already falling behind our competitors when it comes to public transit, cities like Charlotte and Austin. Now is the time to invest in our future if we are going to stay competitive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Jay Everett. My wife and I live in the Hope Gardens neighborhood near the Farmers Market, 928 Ireland Street. I'm also a member of Transit Now Nashville, and I want to thank you for your service and for the investments you've already made in public transportation. The AMP will make it easier to get around town. By connecting the east and west through the heart of downtown, residents and visitors alike will have access to many destinations and attractions, and only have to park once instead of 3 or 4 times. Can you imagine being able to go to dinner in West Nashville and a show or a Preds game downtown and maybe even a night spot over in East Nashville and only parking once? There are 156 cities worldwide operating BRT systems today. We know it works. We know it increases mobility. We know it reduces parking demand. We know it makes those cities better places to live, work, and visit. And we know it generates extraordinary economic development. There aren't any examples of failed BRT projects, only examples of communities who failed to believe in themselves and passed on opportunities to invest in a better future through rapid transit. We believe in Nashville. We believe in making sound, reasonable investments in our future. A future where we fail to see the AMP become a reality is a future where we will have failed each other as neighbors and as citizens of this great city. Please support the AMP. Please support the mass transit investments in this capital budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kenya Nelson Stevens. I live in the East Nashville area, 5 Points, 37206. And I'm here to thank you for your support of the mayor's budget and support of rapid transit in Nashville. I work at University School in the Vanderbilt area, and I'm also a graduate student at Belmont. I work part-time at the Frisk Center, and I'm also serving on the board of Transit Now Nashville. And I'm saying all of that because I commute to all of those destinations via public transit. Using the bus. I decided a few years ago to sell my car because I trusted in the public transportation system here in Nashville. I made a choice to use public transit for the places that I needed to go. So again, I just wanted to thank you for your support of public transit and support of the AMP, and I trust that you will also continue to support it.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm Johnny Shields. I live at 1201 Gartland over in East Nashville. Hey, Pete, Anthony, Scott ran off. Tell him I said hi. I'm also the president of the Historic East Nashville Merchants Association, and I'm here representing our business members in support of the AMP. And we all know, we've all seen the statistics and everything, like this can change the lives of our local independent business owners in my area and all up and down the corridor. People who are struggling to create something and live their dream of a business that they created. this can change everything for them. This can let them take that next step. Instead of struggling day in and day out, having to rely just on their local community, local neighborhood just to get from day to day. This allows tourists and people from all over Nashville to be able to come and spend their money with them and help support these businesses. So not only the businesses in East Nashville, but up and down the corridor, that'll do the same for them. And we'll continue to create part of the great aspects of Nashville is our local businesses. That's what makes us different from other cities. We have unique, special places, and making sure we give these people the opportunity to thrive is paramount to the success of this city. So I'm asking you to support this because I think it'll do great things for all of us and the growth of our city. And as many people have pointed out, it's just the next logical step in the growth of this city. We can't delay it any longer. We're behind the times already, in my opinion. I have two more people. I promised them I would speak for them as well. One, when I was leaving to come over here, my sister made me promise to tell you that she was in support of it too. She's a nurse at Vanderbilt, lives in East Nashville, and says she's been looking at using the transit that is available right now, and she said the timing and everything is just not practical. But if I had a way that I could get on, ride right there, hop off, and get to work, that'd be great. The second one is my best friend Daniel Holland, who lives in West Nashville, but currently works at the Holland House in East Nashville. He and his wife share a car, and she works at Vanderbilt in the photography department. And it's a struggle for him a lot of times to get to work on time and things like that. I would really appreciate it too, because I get a lot less calls asking me to come and give him a ride. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Have a good one.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tara Shaver, and I'm the Associate State Director for Community Outreach for AARP in the Middle Tennessee area. And I live at 115 Cottage Place in Councilman Claiborne's district. Thank you for your work. And also, our offices are downtown. We have about 670,000 members across the state and more than 50,000 members here in Metro Nashville. And we're happy to be here today to tell you about how much we support the AMP system as a way to make sure that as we all age, that we are able to do all the things that we not only need to do, but want to do, and we can do that comfortably and independently. As it's no secret, the baby boomers are putting a lot of strain on our systems, and that's only going to continue to get worse as we are hopefully all going to continue to age. We are looking at a doubling in the population in the older population by 2030, and if many people get to the point where they feel it's not safe to drive or they're no longer comfortable driving, they still want to be independent and self-sufficient, and mass transit provides a way for them to do this. And what we love about this system is that it has a zero entry, so it's safe for folks with all different varieties of mobility and abilities, and it allows them to not only get to those essential appointments, which we already appreciate Metro offering the access ride, and we have several volunteers who use that system to allow them to maintain their independence, one of whom is in his upper 80s, and still does that so that he doesn't have to ask someone else to take him to his appointments. But this would even open up the windows even more and the doors for them to be able to continue to be as active as possible. We have a saying in AARP when we talk about livable communities and the livability of cities, which is it's not just about getting to and from the doctor's office or to the grocery store, but if you want an ice cream cone at 9 o'clock at night, are you able to make that happen? And this is the kind of system that allows that to happen, and you'll all be thinking about that later when it's hot outside. And so we really applaud the work that's already been done, and we know that this is a great first step with the first corridor, and we'd love to see this expand all over Nashville to allow more opportunities for not only our members, but also their friends and family members to have that freedom, because caregiving is a big responsibility, as many of you know. It is also just our joy to support the system, and just if there's anything that we can do to be a resource to you guys, as well as awareness, just let us know. So thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
I'm Ken Winter. I am the new president of the new Friends of Sevier Park. We draw our support and hopefully $2.5 million from at least 5 neighborhoods. Waverly Belmont neighborhood, the old neighborhood, we date from 1887 when a tram was built out 10th Avenue to Glendale Park. The Sevier Park Mansion was 35 years old then. This makes it likely the oldest building, at least in our new 12th South neighborhood, and possibly contending with others in the larger neighborhood. I would urge you to support the substitute budget to keep the commission, the Historic Commission, in Sevier Park. The reasons are fairly straightforward. One, the mansion is the crown jewel of the park. You put many, many thousands of dollars in that mansion finally a few years ago, and it's beautiful, but it also needs upkeep. Two, that building is a two-story wood frame building. It's fragile. It can't support public events of great size, as has been suggested in the line of Two Rivers. It can't do it. Third, I've mentioned the repairs needed and promised for a long period. And finally, the park is now a regional park, thanks to you. I understand we're about the 6th. We have a new community center under construction to be finished within by the end of the year. The master plan, as I suggested, is going to take $2.5 million. I hope we can help you do that. And the main thing is the park is exploding in use, in use from all variety of people, children to the eldest. So it would be a mess to take our current tenant out of that building, to mothball it, or in any other way mess with it. Thank you very much. Please work on the substitute.
Thank you. Those in opposition, wait, okay, go ahead. Are you still in favor?
I'm in opposition
Okay,
to...
yes. Those in opposition wishing to speak, please line up at the lectern now. Go ahead and state your name and address.
I'm Hazel Thornton. I live at 405 Charles Gate Court. I'm a constituent of Sean McGuire. I'm here to oppose the one-stop shop item, not because of the concept, but because of the location. I am speaking on behalf of League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters of Nashville is a nonpartisan organization that promotes active citizen participation and supports efforts which make the voting process accessible to all qualified voters. For 20 years, the presence of the Davidson County Election Commission in the Howard Office building has served as a convenient, centralized location for voter registration and early voting. It is accessible by public transportation. The new capital improvement plan proposed by Mayor Dean to consolidate codes and planning will push the Election Commission out of this familiar space to a location far out on Murfreesboro Road. It is our concern that this new site will be less accessible and will create an unnecessary obstacle for voters. We urge Metro Council and Mayor Dean to explore other options that would allow DCEC to maintain its current office space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the council. Thank you for being here. My name is Rick Williams. I live at 1733 Needlesboro Road, Madison, Tennessee. Okay. Thanks for the prop there. I'm here tonight for two reasons. First of all, I want to thank all the council members, especially Councilman Matthews, for putting money in for the fairgrounds. We really appreciate that. The $200,000 will help a lot. I also want to currently oppose the capital improvements budget because it doesn't have any of the money in it that Director Buck Dozier asked for. He's asking for about $1 million of improvements, seriously needed improvements. There are pictures on your desk of potholes on the roads that the vendors and people use to go in and out of that facility. So we ask that you please consider putting some money in the capital improvements budget. The other issue I'm here about tonight is the BRT. So you asked me why do I stand up with 100 people in the audience and oppose the BRT. I drive up and down West End every day, and I go up and down through there, and I just imagine 2.5 lanes missing of West End, up and down all the way from 5th to White Bridge Road. 2.5 lanes where there's a platform. You've only got 7 to start with, and the regular buses are still going to run down the road too. So they're going to be in the right lane. Doesn't take a rocket science. It doesn't take a planner. It doesn't take a lot of high school math to figure out the automobiles are going to be greatly impacted. By their own study that they submitted to the federal government, they will double the automobile traffic travel time from White Bridge to downtown. Now they're backing up on that now because we're hitting them on it. We had to file a Freedom of Information Act with the federal government to get that report. So please just take your time, think about the money pit that the Music City Star is. It's a money pit. Think about the nice land port on Demumbrium that's now a parking lot. Think about other great ideas that have come and failed here in Nashville. So don't be quick to jump on the next bus, as we say, coming down the road. Think about it greatly. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
I'm George Gruen from Gruen Guitars, which is currently at 400 Broadway, although next week moving to 2120 8th Avenue South. I've been in business for 43 and a half years in Nashville. And I'm here to speak on 2 points. One, the same one Rick said, that I'm concerned that the fairgrounds is not getting the funding that it needs to make the capital improvements that are really, truly needed. The fairgrounds serves a very vital function in Nashville. A 2009 study done by the Fairgrounds Administration pointed out that 1.2 million people a year went there, and that it had a $40 to $60 million annual economic impact for Davidson County using the same type metrics used to justify the convention center. I'm very much in favor of the convention center, and I urge that it be built. But I'm also in favor of keeping our fairgrounds vibrantly healthy. It's a very important part of our community. My new building on 8th Avenue South is very close to the fairgrounds, and I have made a big investment in it, over $3 million, which means that I have great faith in that neighborhood, but I want that neighborhood to stay right by the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds needs to be improved. It has been neglected, and it has had a cloud over it because it was announced that it would be closed, and numerous show sponsors started looking for other venues because they felt that it would not be there. In addition, there has not been the improvements needed because of that cloud. For example, I was at a guitar show there just this past weekend, and in the building I was in, there were 2 water fountains before, and now one of them has been removed because rather than fix it, they just removed it, and the other one, the refrigeration unit doesn't work in it, and the button to press to get water out is fallen off, and you can press this screw and get it out, but the point is the buildings are neglected. It's not getting the care it needs, and I urge you to save our fairgrounds. This county needs it. It's a very vibrantly important part of our city. It's used by more people than almost any other venue in this city.
I'm John Carnes. I've been a resident along the corridor for 46 years, since I was a student at Vanderbilt. I live currently less than 1,000 feet away from the proposed route on Central Avenue in the Richland West End area. My fear from the reports that MTA has produced and the traffic times and delay times that will happen on West End Avenue in front of my home my fear is that my quiet little suburban street, Central Avenue, will become West End Avenue. I believe that we will have 2,000 to 4,000 cars at a minimum driving down our streets every morning and returning every afternoon to get away from the traffic on West End. Next, as we exit our neighborhood, we have two streets, one on Cherokee, one at Bowling. The time to go through the light at Bowling, according to the MTA study, goes from a little under 2 minutes to almost 8 minutes just to get through the light. There are a large number of residents in the area that's the only way they will exit. Traffic will be incredible. As we turn out of that intersection, we hit Elmington Park. The MTA, the summary that they issued in April of their study states that 115 parking spaces, every single parking space in Elmington Park will be used for the park and ride. Where are people going to go to park? Where are people going to park to play baseball? To be in the park? Where do you park to go to the park? Secondly, I own commercial property on West End. One of my tenants is Cumberland Transit, which I founded in 1971. I've been an advocate of bicycling since my college days and working towards bike routes for many, many years. They will lose all of their parking. All of their parking. These businesses along this route that depend on street parking will go out of business. And as we've heard from many of the people before me, this joy of riding bicycles to work will not happen with the AMP. West End will not accommodate bicycle traffic with the AMP. That comes directly from MTA. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Charlotte Cooper, 3409 Trimble Road, District 34. Thank you for listening to us tonight. In listening to the proponents, a couple of times I thought, well, gosh, do they think there's no mass transit in Nashville? Because they kept talking about how we needed the BRT. We have mass transit, and $100 million could improve our current mass transit tremendously. The capital improvements budget is a type of wish list for projects the mayor would like to see funded. Approval sends a message that you agree. Well, my question is, are you ready to agree without proper discussion and asking the hard questions? Is the BRT AMP project the right fit for the West End area? I don't think it is, and everyone I talk to about the BRT does not think it is a good idea. Let me paint a simple picture for you. In the MTA data, it projects 4,500 daily riders for the BRT. There is an estimated 30,000 to 50,000 cars that use the West End corridor each day. So the BRT AMP project will eliminate 2 center vehicular lanes to be dedicated for 4,500 BRT riders, leaving just 2 lanes to be used by 30,000 to 50,000 cars each day. Does this make sense? I don't think so. 4,500 riders will have little impact on removing cars from the road, yet the BRT AMP will greatly impact the 30,000 to 50,000 cars using just 2 lanes instead of 3 lanes with a left turn lane. Therefore, I am asking you to consider taking out any funding for the BRT. You owe it to your constituents to fully understand all the cost involved and how this will affect the businesses, residents, and users of this corridor. I contend this cannot be known without discussions and full disclosure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Bill Titus. I live at 511 North Wilson Boulevard. I also have a residence at 3102 West End Circle. I wanted to reiterate some of the things that the previous speaker and others have said. As I've talked to more and more people about this project and explained some of the traffic and other concerns, their support seems to evaporate. So I would want you to understand that there are a lot of people who may appear to be supporting it now, but when they see the facts and circumstances, they will quickly change their mind. I have outlined most of my concerns in an email to Councilman Holloman, which I appreciate his consideration of all of that. I just want to express that as a member of the Richland West End neighborhood, as the Crime Watch co-captain, my wife and I frequently will walk West End and see the empty buses that pass by us, suggesting that we should possibly base this project on ridership, not just on number of bodies along a street. I'm also a banker. I'm very concerned about economic development. I don't really see how you're going to get incremental development along one of the most developed and most wealthiest streets in this city compared to other avenues where you can get much more benefit from putting a nice public project like this. And I am actually would be interested in a transit solution. I just think this transit solution is not correct. I also wanted to reiterate, being a part of a business that I don't speak for officially tonight, but has 2 locations along this scenario, we need to have scenarios where our associates, sales associates, can get out and in, and customers in and out, and these people are coming from places that are not on this line. So this is actually going, in certain cases, hospitality, different story, this is going to be a business destructor, not development. Those businesses, in order to give their associates opportunities to move in and out and make sales and so forth, are going to have to move away from West End, not to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Lola Denise Brown. I live at 1516 16th Avenue North. To the People's Choice of Council. My name is Lola Denise Brown, and I am the daughter of the late and great trailblazer, Dr. Dorothy L. Brown, who served her people in her district well in the House of Representatives in the 85th General Assembly. One thing that I did learn from my mother, I learned from her that was to take care of those whom we may need later on. And in other words, when we look at other people and their situations, we must say, there but for the grace of God go I. I vehemently urge you to vote no against the $7.5 million of the taxpayers' money for planning the BRT, the AMP, until the taxpayers can be educated on what is being done with their money and who it will and will not benefit. If this bill passes, I will personally seek out those who will file a complaint and/or a lawsuit against MTA for the discrimination and exclusion of impoverished communities and residents that live there, for ignoring the alternative route, which would be Charlotte Avenue or Charlotte Pike, and that would and could provide more economic benefits to the community put in that area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, to all the council members.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'm Margot Chambers, and I live at 3803 Princeton Avenue in Nashville. And I'd like you to remove from the budget all items related to the East-West Connector, the AMP, or the BRT on Broadway West End corridor in the budget. This project was brought to you by the Chamber of Commerce. They created the Transit Alliance just for the purpose of how to get the public to pay for mass transit. That effort is in front of you tonight. You're being asked to go into debt to put down a first payment on a system the group has spent a lot of time and energy trying to figure out how to make that happen, and this was all they could muster. Here are some merits of the project. This project was officially added to the 2035 Regional Transportation Plan in March of 2012, not 2010. You guys talked about it, but officially it got added March 2012. And it was added as an amendment by the mayor of Williamson County. The MTA said we'll have 1.6 million transit riders whether we build the East-West Connector or not. This is set up to be another Music City Star project. This project is on track to receive a public hearing at the federal level due to the lack of transparency with citizens. The federal government does not give us money to build a BRT for tourists. They only give it to us if taxpayers ride it. There have been failed BRTs and light rails. That's not what consultants get paid to tell you. The MPO gives Nashville in 1 year $800,000 to pay consultants to present a positive view of mass transit. Citizens can't compete with that kind of funding. The Chamber of Commerce, Transit Alliance, the Nashville Civic Design Center, the MTA, and even the Planning Department all receive funding through the MPO. This project fails on its merits. The MTA told the feds it will create gridlock and highway congestion. It's an unfair tax burden as this is funding regional transportation locally. It doesn't have citizen support. I know you've received many emails against it. I live along this corridor. I'm supposed to be a likely rider. Not only will I not use it because it doesn't match my commute, I have not met one person in my neighborhood who would use it on a daily basis. The MTA has given citizens one version of this project, and it has given the federal government a different version, a version that creates gridlock, highway congestion, and unknown debt. Please do not fund the East-West Connector. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Speaker, Council. My name is Tim Thompson. I live at 1309 McKinney Road in East Nashville. I'm a former Marine who served this country to protect the rights of all Americans, among those the right to vote. This is especially important to me as an American citizen that representation to all be fair. In an atmosphere where we should be motivating people to vote, we are essentially limiting their access to a local resource for registration and early voting. By moving a location which has served the area for so many years, you create a burden upon people who may already have a lack of transportation and funding to access a site further away. I oppose the relocation of the Election Commission. To those of us with cars and money, like I've heard about the AMP and everything else, yeah, it's motivating tourism, but we need to motivate voters. We need to motivate people to get out. And by moving the location, it puts another wall up to let people register. But it affects thousands of Nashvillians, the people who live here and work here. Not people that might visit, but people who live here. This is potential disenfranchisement. When did the value of a vote depend on the amount of one's income? Think about it. It's happened. If you move the current location, it potentially eliminates a whole group of people who won't be able to register or don't have the resources to get to the other location. If this move is to save taxpayer dollars, then those taxpayers will no longer have fair access for their voices to be heard on how they want their tax dollars spent. I ask you as an American Marine to not move the Election Commission from its current site. Let us spend tax dollars to expand voting privileges, not restrict them. Semper Fi.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Mancini. I live at 2304 White Avenue, and I'm here to speak as a resident of Davidson County and also as the Executive Director of Tennessee Citizen Action, which is a statewide consumer protection and public interest organization. And I'm here to speak against the proposal in the capital improvement budget to move the Davidson County Election Commission from its current location at 800 2nd Avenue South to the Metro Southeast Complex at 1417 Murfreesboro Road to make way for a codes one-stop shop. Now, while members of Citizen Action are not against the codes one-stop shop, primarily because the one-stop shop will be a consumer-friendly improvement over the current process, we are opposed to moving the Election Commission for the opposite reason, that it will impair the current customer service processes provided by the Election Commission. The Davidson County Election Commission does provide customer service at its current location. New voter registration, address changes, access to the monthly meetings, which are important for citizens to attend to keep track of the election process and to make sure that it's fair, as well as providing supplies for community-based registration efforts. And during very busy times, when voters cannot get through on the phone, it's a convenient place to have their questions answered in person. There's been a lot of discussion tonight also about public transportation, and the current Davidson County Election Commission location services Nashvillians who use public transportation either by choice or because they do not own or have access to a car. And it is these voters and potential voters who will be the most negatively affected by the move. Once again, I want to be clear, we are not opposed to the code's one-stop shop. We do request, however, that the customers served daily by the Election Commission are considered in this decision as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ralph Hatcher. I'm from Hermitage, Tennessee, 289 Bonner Springs Drive. I rise in opposition of the move of the Davidson County Election Commission to Genesco Park or Metro Southeast. One of the reasons it's going to be very, very inconvenient to our voters, especially in this area that we're in now, around the downtown area. Metro Southeast is served by one bus. That's the Murfreesboro Road bus. I think it runs about every 45 minutes during the week. I might be a little bit more than that during rush hour. Howard School, or Metro office building down here at the Fulton campus, it's served by the Nolensville Road bus, Nolensville Road, Murfreesboro Road, Hart Street, all the MTA buses that's going to the Nestor Street garage, and also the free shuttle bus from downtown. The cost of adding an extra early voting site, if you move to Metro Southeast and you put an early voting site downtown somewhere, it would be very, very costly to do that, because number one, right now at the present location, during early voting, we have 6 dedicated computers for the people that come in. Other than that, if it's a real heavy turnout, we have up to 8 more computers that the clerks back up the early voting people. I worked early voting for 5 of the last 6 elections at the Fulton headquarters over here. And some of you came down there and saw me when you came and voted. But it would be very inconvenient to move way out there to the airport to the Genesco Park building out there. And it would be very detrimental to the voters of this county. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karen Peck, and I'm at 6833 Bridgewater Drive. And for all the reasons that other people have listed, I am against the move of the Davidson County Election Commission over to Murfreesboro Road. And my reason is, as an officer in Bellevue at Harpeth Valley Elementary School, training is almost impossible for some of our members to get to. When you go and you vote, if you notice that a lot of times it's very difficult for us as older a lot of the workers are older people. In fact, sometimes I'm 64 and I'm the youngest one in my precinct. And training is very difficult, and I've had some of the workers turn me down because they can't work. They said they can't make it to training. Moving it over to Murfreesboro Road is going to make it impossible for some people, and we already have a shortage of workers as it is. So for that reason and many others listed, I am against that move. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker Pro Tem, ladies and gentlemen of the council, my name is Shane Smiley, 4220 Brush Hill Road here in Nashville. You have two line items on the current CIB budget concerning the fairgrounds. The first of those is for $300 for paving. You all have a picture on your desk of the main thoroughfare that is required for all the flea market vendors and the competitors to all come into the property through what we call our 5 points, which is at Craighead and Bransford. This was washed away in the 2010 flood. The fairgrounds put a FEMA request forward to Metro. Because my understanding is that because the property was going to be closing, that request for FEMA funds stopped with Metro. What would have been 90% paid by FEMA, 10% paid by the fairgrounds, is now 100% to be paid by the fairgrounds, and the cost of paving has almost doubled in the last couple of years as petroleum prices go up. So we would ask you to see it in your hearts to move forward and put into the capital spending plan that $300,000 for paving. I also found out just today that from gate to gate on Wedgwood Avenue, which is one of our major thoroughfares in our city, that is the responsibility of the fairgrounds to maintain that section of road, even though it's estimated that the fairgrounds usage of that portion of Wedgwood is just over 1%. But the potholes are getting bigger. They're doing the best they can to fill. They're utilizing their budget to patch our city streets. The other item that you have on the budget, on the capital improvement budget, is $450,000 to replace the annex building. Now, the annex building was blown down partially due to straight line winds last fall. The fairgrounds has paid into Metro year after year after year what it's been requested to pay by Metro. There's a line item that says building insurance, and that averages $15,000 to $18,000 a year that the fairgrounds pays in to Metro's fund of where they are basically self-insured unless it's catastrophic. They paid in for years. They finally had a claim. That claim was denied due to the uncertainty of what's going to happen with the property. But yet turned around a couple months later and we're handed a bill for $12,500 for building insurance. This is an unjust double standard. We are paying in as a fairgrounds to Metro, and when it comes time for Metro to pay something back out on their insurance, it's being refused, but yet we're still being charged more for insurance that obviously we're not available to get. So I would encourage you to take those two line items in the capital budget and put them in, because Nashville and the fairgrounds truly is where Nashville comes together. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Matthews.
I'd like to move approval and re-refer this back to the Budget and Finance Committee. Oh, we do have committee reports.
You got a committee meeting last night, committee report.
Committee reports.
That's you.
Just me. Budget and Finance approved and re-referred back to Budget and Finance 10-4-0 against. And I'd like to move approval and re-refer back to Budget and Finance.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at our resolutions on the consent agenda. We have 6 of our resolutions that will not be on the consent agenda. Just real quickly, those 6 resolutions are RS 2013-670, the first one there. It establishes a certified tax rate. There's a proposed substitute. We'll deal with that one separately. RS 2013-700 deals with animal control fees. We'll consider that one with the bills on third reading right after the BL 2013-452. Resolution 2013-710 deals with the $300 million in general obligation bonds.
Order, Chairman Todd. Before we took that vote, you had a couple of council members that had their lights on. They wanted to discuss before we voted on the vote previous.
Wouldn't it show?
The lights were clearly on.
Wouldn't it show on the cue? The lights were? I'm sorry, Councilman. I didn't. There weren't any lights on. We have a meeting Tuesday, June 11. I think we can discuss it then.
Okay.
I'm
just saying there were lights on.
Wouldn't they? Yeah. I'm sorry about that. So the RS 2013-710 will also be will not be on the consent agenda. And then finally, the three resolutions dealing with pay plans, RS 2013-711, 712, and 713. We'll deal with those at the heel of the meeting. So the items on the consent agenda are 709, 714, 715, 716, 717, 718, 719, 720, 21, 22, and 23. And I'm going to read the captions for each one of those. And after I read the captions, if any of those need to be pulled, please let me know. The first is RS 2013-709. Sponsors Matthews. It authorizes the issuance of Series 2013 electric system revenue refunding bonds. The next is RS 2013-714. Sponsors also Matthews approves a sole source contract with Pictometry International Corporation for digital aerial photography to be used by the assessor of property. 715 sponsors Bennett approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Metro Police and Fire Departments and the Tennessee Department of Transportation and Homeland Security for the removal of vehicles, cargo, and debris from Tennessee highways following a motor vehicle crash or incident. 716 sponsors are Bennett and Matthews approves an application for a state grant to the Metro Police Department for continuation of an enhanced DUI enforcement initiative. 717 sponsors are Weiner and Matthews approves an annual state grant to the Metro Board of Health for food safety services. 718 sponsors are Weiner and Matthews approves an annual state grant to the Metro Board of Health for bioterrorism preparedness services. 719 sponsors are Weiner and Matthews approves an annual state grant to the Metro Board of Health for health promotion services. 720 sponsors are Weiner and Matthews approves an amendment to a federal grant to the Metro Board of Health to create a comprehensive strategy to address issues and barriers to responsible fatherhood. 721 sponsors Weiner approves a contract for services between the Metro Board of Health and Corrections Corporation of America to provide services to male offenders through the New Life program. 722 sponsors are Potts and Matthews approves a cooperative agreement between Metro Water Services and the U.S. Department of the Army for a Cumberland River feasibility study. And the last item on the consent agenda is 723, sponsor is Matthews, authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle Metro government's personal injury claim against Leon Flournoy. Do any of those items need to be pulled? Seeing none, then we need some committee reports. Councilman Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. 709, 714, 716, 717, 718, 719, and 720 were approved, 10-4-0 against. 722 and 723 were approved, 11-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Weiner.
Thank you, Chair. 2013-712, 717, 718, 719, 720, and 721 were all approved, 5-4-0 against.
Thank you. Public Safety, Councilmember Bennett.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Public Safety approved, 715, 716, 6-4-0 against.
Thank you. Public Works, Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve 722, 6-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis, do we have a motion? Sorry.
Yes, motion to approve consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Consent agenda is approved. Let's go back then to RS 2013-670, Councilmember Matthews. This establishes a certified tax rate in the General Services District and sets the amount of the certified tax rate for the Urban Services District. Councilman Matthews.
There is a substitute for this, and I'd like to move the substitute. Well, committee report. This was approved as substituted, 10-4-0 against in Budget and Finance, and I'd like to move the substitute.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the substitute. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The substitute resolution passes. The next item on the agenda is...
I'd like to move the resolution as substituted.
We have a motion and a second to approve as substituted. All in favor of the resolution as substituted, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The substitute resolution passes. Next is RS 2013-710, sponsors Matthews. This determines to issue up to $300 million in general obligation bonds to provide funding for various projects in the mayor's 2013-2014 capital spending plan. Councilman Matthews.
Budget and Finance voted to defer this to track with the capital improvements budget, 10-4-0 against, and I move to defer to track with the capital improvements.
So we have a motion to defer this until next Tuesday, June the 11th. Is there a second? It's been seconded. All in favor of deferral until next Tuesday, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. That's all.
700.
Yeah, we're going to deal with that later. So that's all. So that concludes the resolutions and the consent agenda. This brings us to bills on introduction and first reading. If there's no objection, we will consider all the bills on first reading in one vote at this time.
Move for approval.
Seeing no objection, and we have a motion to approve. All in favor of approving all the bills on first agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion passes. We're now at the bills on second reading. The first is BL 2013-423. Sponsors are Moore and Claiborne. This approves an agreement with the state for an exchange of the old Ben West Library for the Tennessee Preparatory School property. Councilmember Moore.
Committee report.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance voted to withdraw, 11-4-0 against.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning and Zoning and Historic voted to withdraw by a vote of 6-0.
Councilmember Moore.
I move to withdraw.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-454. Sponsors Bennett approves the enrollment of the Metro Police Department in the Carfax Investigative Data Sharing Program for access to motor vehicle accident reports in other jurisdictions. Councilmember Bennett.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Public Safety approved 6-4-0 against, and I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-455. Sponsors are Lancaster and Potts. Authorizes Metro government to enter into a participation agreement with Meharry Medical College regarding construction of a water main and stormwater improvements located on D.B. Todd Boulevard and Marina Street, as well as other existing properties in this area. Councilmember Lancaster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could I have committee reports, please?
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved, 11-4-0 against.
Public Works, Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve, 6-4-0 against.
Councilmember Lancaster.
Move for approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-456. Sponsor is Matthews. Authorizes Metro Water Services to acquire easements for the Due West Stormwater Improvement Project for properties located along Berry Drive, Berkeley Drive, Brinkhaven Avenue, Cortland Drive, Due West Avenue, and East Palatine Avenue. Councilmember Matthews.
Committee reports.
Public Works, Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve, 6-4-0 against.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic approved, 6-0.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved, 11-4-0 against, and I'd like to move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-457. Sponsor Stanley. Authorizes Metro Water Services to acquire easements for the Dodson Chapel Sewer Improvement Project for properties located at 3590 Hermitage Industrial Drive, 5289 Old Hickory Boulevard, Hermitage Industrial Drive, unnumbered, and Dodson Chapel Drive, unnumbered. Councilmember Stanley.
Committee reports, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-4, 0 against.
Public Works, Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted 6-4, 0 against.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning and Zoning Historic approved 6-0.
Councilman Stanley.
I move approval.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next is BL 2013-458. Sponsors Bedney. Authorizes Metro Water Services to acquire easements for the Retriever Court Stormwater Improvements Project for properties located at 5913 and 5917 Retriever Court, 907 Retriever Place, 5960 Nolensville Pike, and Hunters Branch Common Area. Councilman Potts.
Committee reports, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-4, 0 against.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning and Zoning Historic approved 6-0.
Public Works, Councilman Potts.
Public Works voted approved 6-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is 2013-459. Sponsors Bennett. Authorizes Metro Water Services to acquire easements for the Matthews Avenue Stormwater Improvements Project for properties located along Matthews Avenue, Curdwood Boulevard, and Virginia Avenue. Councilman Bennett.
Committee reports, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-4, 0 against.
Public Works, Councilman Potts.
6-4, 0 against.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning and Zoning Historic approved 6-0.
Move approval.
Councilman Bennett.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is 2013-460. Sponsors Potts. Authorizes Metro Water Services to acquire easements for the Inglewood Stormwater Improvement Project for properties located along McGavick Pike, Inglewood Circle South, and Inglewood Circle North. Councilmember Potts.
Committee reports.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-0.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning and Zoning approved 6-0.
Public Works, Councilman Potts.
Public Works voted to approve 6-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-461. Sponsors Matthews. Authorizes Metro Water Services to acquire easements for the Norma Drive Stormwater Improvement Project for properties located at Norma Drive and Yelton Court. Councilman Matthews.
Committee reports.
Public Works, Councilman Potts.
Public Works voted to approve 6-4, 0 against.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning and Zoning Historic approved 6-0.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-0, and I'll move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-462. Sponsors Matthews. Authorizes Metro Water Services to acquire easements for the Terry Place Stormwater Improvement Project for properties located along Belinda Drive and Terry Place. Councilman Matthews.
Committee reports.
Public Works, Councilman Potts.
Public Works voted to approve 6-4, 0 against.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning and Zoning voted 6-4, 0 against.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-0, and I'll move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next is 2013-463. Sponsors Claiborne. Authorizes acceptance of permanent easements for Springview Drive Stormwater Improvement Project for properties located at 419 Springview Drive and 412 and 414 Blue Hills Drive. Councilman Claiborne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee reports, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-0.
Public Works, Councilman Potts.
Public Works voted to approve 6-4, 0 against.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted 6-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-464. Sponsor is Pridemore. Authorizes the acquisition of easements for the Shawnee Road Stormwater Improvement Project for properties located along Sioux Terrace, Cheyenne Boulevard, and Shawnee Road. Councilman Pridemore.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Committee reports.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-0.
Public Works, Councilman Potts.
Public Works voted to approve 6-4, 0 against.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning voted 6-4, 0 against.
Councilman Pridemore.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-465. The sponsor is Matthews. This authorizes the acceptance of permanent easements for the Apple Tree Road Stormwater Improvement Project for properties located at 4200 Apple Tree Road and 105 Edgebrook Road. Councilman Matthews.
Committee reports.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted 6-4-0 against.
Public Works, Councilman Potts.
Public Works voted to approve 6-4-0 against.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-0, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. And the last stormwater project is BL 2013-466. The sponsor is Wiener. Authorizes the acceptance of permanent and temporary easements for the Stacy Square Court Stormwater Improvement Project for properties located along Colt Road, New Sawyer Brown Road, and Sawyer Brown Road. Councilmember Wiener.
Committee reports, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-0.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Does this mean we won't get any more stormwater calls? Planning, Zoning voted 6-0 to approve.
Public Works, Councilman Potts.
Public Works voted to approve 6-4-0 against.
Councilmember Wiener.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. We are now at bills on third reading. The first is BL 2013-360. The sponsor is Councilman Banks. This provides for a compensation and benefits study for elected officials of the metropolitan government. Councilman Banks. Sorry, I'm
That's
sorry.
what. Thank you, Chair. Seeing all committee reports in, I'd like to move approval of the bill as amended.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next is BL 2013-420. The sponsors are Maynard and Tigard. This amends the Metro Code to create a small business economic development incentive grant program. Councilmember Maynard.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval with a brief statement.
Go ahead. Thank you.
I think this is a historic night that this council, which has many signatures in order to provide an incentive for small businesses to create jobs in Davidson County. That coupled, if we pass the substitute budget, will be historic that we will then fund and create a permanent workforce development training program in Davidson County. So that this council will be creating an incentive plan for small businesses to create jobs and then funding a workforce development program that will help train our citizens to get jobs. And I think that's what this council, what we should be doing, helping small businesses grow and helping our citizens get the training they need for careers. And I will hope that all of the council persons will support this with my co-sponsor, Charlie Tiger. But as I said during the second reading, this is really the council's bill with so many people working on a small business incentive program that came together united to support this one. We're so happy that we have this pilot program, but we'll be even greaterly happy when we know that we have the best small business incentive program in the nation. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Tiger.
I will not repeat any of the eloquent words of Councilman Maynard. I will take this time, council members, to reintroduce you to a strange face that you may not recognize. This is Councilman at Large Tim Garrett from Goodlettsville, and my only advice to you tonight is don't ask to see his tan line. It's pretty shocking.
So all the committee reports are in. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-421. The sponsor is Councilman Pardue. This amends the Metro Code with regard to open burning. Councilman Pardue.
Committee reports are in, and I'd move it as amended.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. All right, we're going to take the 452. We're going to take 452 out of order here. This is BL 2013-452. The sponsors are Bennett and Anthony Davis. This amends the Metro Code pertaining to the current animal control fee schedule. Councilmember Bennett.
I move approval with brief comment.
Second. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I just would like to request that Mr. Cooper explain one more time what this really means.
Sorry.
This bill does a couple of things. The main thing that you have been
receiving emails and calls about has to do with the change of the fee and the procedure that will subsequently be involved with the change of the fee. Currently, the code sets out the dog licensing fee specifically in the code at $4. The Board of Health and the mayor's budget and the substitute budget include $150,000 in revenue for 3 additional animal control officers, which will be a result of an increase in that fee from $4 to $6. The other animal control fees are included as part of a fee schedule that is subject to approval by the council by resolution. So what this is doing is taking the dog licensing fee and a couple other fees, such as the kennel fee, and moving those with all of the other fees that the council considers by resolution. So the bottom line is you're going from 3 readings to change the code to 1 reading to approve the fee schedule by resolution. It does not change anything having to do with the public process. It goes through the same committee structure, the same opportunity for public input. The only difference is you're shortening the amount of time for consideration. You're going from 3 readings to 1 reading.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. I signed on to this legislation because I think it's a really good move for Metro Animal Care and Control. I would not sign on to it in the thought that it might dilute the power of the council to oversight over the health department and Metro Animal Care and Control. You all know that the officers are just so necessary in what we do. I would love to stand here and say we don't need the officers, but that's absolutely not true. And we get it in our phone calls in our community every day about loose dogs and problems with dogs. This legislation really gives some flexibility, if you will, to the staff to do some things that other rescues do, which is something we actually compete with at Metro Animal Care and Control. There are different programs that are out there that we should be able to make use of as well, and I'm excited about this opportunity. A couple of years ago, we were euthanizing over 10,000 dogs and cats a year. We are now down to a little over 8,000, which is progress, and I have to compliment the health department and Metro Animal Care and Control for working so hard on this issue. We have a long way to go, and I think that any healthy adoptable animal that is euthanized is just horrible for our city, and we need to move in a direction of a positive flow for the animals and their well-being and their quality of life. So I ask for your approval of this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Scott Davis.
Thank you, Chair. I know in committee we had a little bit of a discussion, a lengthy discussion, and some of the questions were answered in the committee. One question that was answered about putting the agenda online so that the public can see it, and we talked about that. We agreed that could happen, correct?
Well, the council agenda is online. The resolution that will approve any subsequent change in the fee schedule will be online, both on the clerk's site and the council site, and the analysis of the fee schedule will include the actual schedule as an attachment, and that will also be online. That is in addition to whatever the Board of Health puts on their website. But there will be ample opportunities to access the information before the council votes on it.
Gotcha. No problem. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Duvall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to just give some accolades to the sponsor of that bill. I think that nobody cares more about animals more than Karen does in this council, and I want to thank you so much for carrying the water on the bill.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. And then back when we were on the resolutions, we said we would take up RS 2013-700 after that bill was passed. So If you jump back to RS 2013-700, the sponsors are Weiner, Bennett, and Matthews. This ratifies the Metro Animal Care and Control fee schedule. Councilmember Weiner.
Committee reports.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 10-0.
Health, Hospitals, and Social Services, Councilmember Weiner.
Approved 5-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. We're now at BL 2013-431, which is our budget. Jumped around, but it's 431. The bill's on third reading. Councilmember Matthews. This approves the operating budget of the Metropolitan Government for the fiscal year 2013 and 2014.
Budget and Finance approved as substituted, 11-4, 0 against. I'd like to move the substitute at this point.
Second.
With a brief discussion, if I could.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I think that this council should be proud that we have a substitute budget that is before us that truly is a reflection of a budget for opportunity. Not just opportunity for some of Nashville or certain parts of Nashville, but opportunity for all of Nashville. Throughout this process, I've learned that most council members have mastered the art of pushing their buttons and making comments and saying, I'm on a ask a quick question and then speak in 3 minutes before they actually pose a question. And I've learned other things just about my colleagues, but I'll go over a couple of details about this particular substitute, if you will indulge me. $200 from the undesignated fund balance of the GSD General Fund will be designated to a specific account set up for state fair subsidy. Now, that $200 will be available for appropriation by the council once the council takes action on the Fairgrounds Master Plan. It is the chair's intent to hold a series of joint meetings with Coles Fair and Farmers Market this summer to discuss the master plan and determine how the council wishes to proceed with the fairgrounds. $150,000 will be designated for the continuation of the Workforce Development Program. This program will be administered by the Mayor's Office of Economic and Community Development and appropriated to Jefferson Street United Merchants Partnership, JUMP, which is the agency that operated the Workforce Development Program during construction of the Music City Center. $99,800 for the juvenile court for a new probation officer position and the replacement of lost grant funds that will provide additional resources to families and youth that come through that court system. $63,700 will be included for the Planning Commission to add a planner position as a result of increased permit design review workload the department is experiencing currently. $63,700 for the Historical Commission will be added for a new position, and as a result of increased properties that have been or are expected to be added to their workload in the future. It is the intent that this additional position will give them the flexibility to staff one person at the proposed one-stop shop, and the Historical Commission and the Historical Zoning Commission will be allowed to remain at the Sunnyside location. $50,000 will be appropriated to the Arts Commission for after-school art activities. $25,000 for a new community garden grant program that was proposed by Councilmember Tigert. I fully support that program and that notion. That is something that the council will have to create the criteria for that grants, but it will be administered by the Agricultural Extension. And all of these, the substitute wish list, and we were able to actually grant most of the wish list items that were proposed by council, but all of these wish list items were funded through majority contingency funds, contingency local match, GSD contingency, USD contingency, relocation of metro agency contingency from the utility expense, but also there was a mistake at the level that the Hermitage was funded in the mayor's proposal. The intent was to fund the Hermitage at its current funding of $100,000. It was included at an additional $100,000, which we also used to fund some of the wish list items that were submitted by the council. I'd be remiss if I did not mention the work of the administration and several council members that actually pushed the administration to include separate increments. I'd like to thank the department heads that have agreed to work to make sure that we're able to do this for our Metro employees. I think that's very important for some of, probably our most precious resource that we have here in Metro government, our employees. I do want to mention that the DA's wish list item that was included by Council Lady Berry was withdrawn because we have asked the legal department to give an opinion on the state statute that says that the public defender's office should be funded at 75% of the DA, what the DA's office is funded at. Before we make any appropriations or anything to the public defender's office or the district attorney's office, we should receive that opinion and be able to make an informed decision on that appropriation.
Councilmember Stein.
Have somebody yield time if they want to.
I'd like to speak, but I want to give my time to the chair to make sure he can finish. If I can do that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Stein. Continuing with the Election Commission, there was a wish list item entered for the Election Commission. Councilman Stein made a very good point during our budget hearings that the Election Commission will have a vacancy in a position that may allow them to depending on when they fill that position, to have additional funds to be able to fund some of the items that were on their wish list. We've asked the Election Commission to go back and actually look at how quickly they plan to fill that position so that we could determine how much they will have to maybe fund some of their wish list items that were presented, and if they needed additional funding once they found that out, then certainly I think this council should support an appropriation at the appropriate time, especially for poll worker training and recruitment efforts by the Election Commission. With that said, I would also like to make comments about some of the comments that were made about the one-stop shop and how it will affect the Election Commission very quickly. I know that we'll take up the capital improvements budget next week, but there have been discussions, and I did discuss with the administration, with our finance director, the possibility of looking at additional or alternative sites for the Election Commission to move to. The administration has agreed to be open to looking at alternative sites for the Election Commission other than the Southeast Metro site. They also have agreed to look at being able to provide some of the customer or voter services that were mentioned today, voter registration, change of address services, and also keeping an early voting site at the Fulton campus. So I did want to mention that during these comments because it did come up. In regards to the small business incentive plan, I think that this plan was something that I really appreciated the work of Councilman Maynard, Councilman Tiger, and other council members that actually helped to come up with the incentive plan. I appreciate the administration for supporting this. I think it's a great plan, and like Councilman Maynard stated before, I think that this will be a great complement with the workforce development program going forward to be able to really offer opportunity for all of Nashville. I do want to mention that there was one item that was discussed by the Minority Caucus, and that was the Minority Business Center. They did discuss placing a wish list item for the Minority Business Center. It was not submitted, but the Minority Caucus is committed, even though that item wasn't submitted for the wish list and not considered in this substitute budget. I do want to mention that the Minority Caucus is committed to helping the Minority Business Center find funding from other sources. I do want to just say a couple of thank yous in closing. I want to thank Mayor Dean for his vision in offering his budget proposal and also offering some flexibility for us to consider the items that are included in the substitute. I want to thank Vice Mayor Neighbors for her confidence in placing me in the lead of this committee. It has been a great experience for me, and I've learned a lot, and I've enjoyed working with the committee. I want to thank my Vice Chair, Councilmember Harmon, for being willing and ready to step in when it was needed. He's been a great help, great support in this whole process, and I definitely want him to have the recognition he deserves. I want to thank the entire Budget and Finance Committee and other council members that endured through an intense budget hearing schedule that was set by myself. I want to thank Rich Riebling and the rest of the Finance Department for helping to work through looking at the substitute and the items that we wanted to include in this substitute. I want to thank Deputy Mayor Hinote, Marty Zygas for their support in some of the substitute items that were proposed. Also want to thank the council staff, Elise, Rosie, Mike, Barbara, and Suzanne. Can't thank you all enough for what you all have done and help with your support throughout this process. And last but not least, I want to thank John Cooper. Without him, a lot of this would not be possible. He's worked tireless with me, and I can't thank him enough. I told him he's a godsend to this council. So I ask for your support of this budget. And I'd like to renew my motion to approve the substitute.
Thank you. Councilmember Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of this substitute budget. I'm proud that it continues to move our community forward as we continue to maneuver out of the hardship of the last few years. To that end, I think it also should be noted that this council continues to build upon its good work. And I think that the work that we did under Chairman McGuire last year, setting aside the funds that went to both schools and to our general debt service, has stood us in good stead with this budget. As for this substitute, the mayor gets a lot of credit for his mantra about education and public safety and economic development, which he uses all the time. Lost in that is that he didn't invent that. All of us, I believe, in one form or fashion, have come to this place supporting young people, believing in the importance of public safety and economic development because it reflects the overall goals of our community. And I think this budget does three things that are particularly important. And I think first and foremost, the work that we've done in this process to put increments back in and for the salary raise for our public safety employees and our general government employees is hugely important because I think it reflects both their patience as we've gotten through hard times, but also this body and this government's belief in the importance of their work. And secondly, I am glad that we're continuing our strong support for the school system. $26 million more dollars than last year, getting us to almost $150 million more dollars than 2007. Adding the $95 million we may do in the capital spending budget gets us to about $300 million in more capital spending since 2007, shows perhaps the strongest commitment to our young people and education of any community in the United States. This budget, however, puts it in proportion to our rebuilding of the general government, which has taken a disproportionate hit over the last few years. So I'm glad we're continuing to move it forward, but doing it in proportion. And the last thing I want to mention is everyone knows I'm a big fan of this council and its work, and I'm really proud of my fellow members and their work on the small business economic development work, as well as continuing the growth of the workforce development program. Couldn't be done without the cooperation of Mr. Riebling and the mayor's office, but clearly those are initiatives that are being strongly driven by this body, and I commend those that have done that great work on our behalf. And finally, each of us that is involved in this process need to add our thanks, certainly to Mr. Cooper and our wonderful staff, to Mr. Riebling and the finance staff, and also, I think, on this body's behalf, to Chairman Matthews for running a process that was open and transparent and allowed all of us to participate to the degree we wanted to. So congratulations to you and Vice Chair Harmon.
Councilmember Berry. Okay. Councilmember Matthews.
No,
okay.
I'm waiting on, I'm going to have to move the
okay.
substitute.
We have a motion and a second on this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Now
I'd like to move the bill as substituted.
We have a motion and a second on the bill as substituted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-432. The sponsor is Matthews. This adopts the property tax levy for the fiscal year 2013 and 2014. Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved as substituted, 11-4-0 against, and I'd like to move the substitute at this time.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
I'd like to move the bill as substituted.
We have a motion and a second on the bill as substituted. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The substituted bill passes. Next is BL 2013-434. The sponsor is Councilmember Weiner. This approves an agreement between Vanderbilt University and the Metro government to provide student clinical instruction and training with the Davidson County Drug Court. Councilmember Weiner.
All committee reports in. I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-435. The sponsor is Councilmember Bennett. This approves a lease agreement between the Metro Board of Public Education and Liberty Collegiate Academy for use of the former Jerry Baxter School located at 3515 Gallatin Road. Councilmember Bennett.
Move approval.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next is BL 2013-436. This approves a lease agreement between the Metro Board of Public Education and Nashville Prep for use of the McCain School property located at 1300 56th Avenue North. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you. In stead of Councilmember Baker, I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next is BL 2013-437. The sponsor is Councilmember Langster. This amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of alley number 902 right-of-way. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All reports having been given, move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-438. The sponsor is Councilmember Moore. This amends official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of alley number 428 right-of-way. Councilmember Moore.
Committee report.
Traffic and Parking, Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Traffic and Parking passed this 5-4 and 0 against.
Councilmember Moore.
I move for approval.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-439. The sponsor is Allen. It amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of alley number 434 right-of-way. Councilmember Allen.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-440. The sponsor is Councilman Claiborne. This authorizes the disposition of 3 parcels of surplus property adjacent to 28th Avenue North to HCRI Tennessee Properties LLC. Councilmember Claiborne.
With all committee reports in, I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-441. Sponsor is Langster. This authorizes Metro government to abandon easement rights within a portion of the former right-of-way of 5001 Tennessee Avenue. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All reports having been reported, I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-442. The sponsor is Councilmember Scott Davis. Authorizes the acquisition of easements for the Haynes Park and Mayor Place Stormwater Improvement Project for properties along Boyce Court, Charles Court, Haynes Park Drive, Kingview Drive, Iverson Avenue, and Manor Avenue. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Committee reports, please.
They're all in.
I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-443. Sponsor is Potts. This authorizes the acquisition of easements for the Bellcrest Drive stormwater improvement projects for properties located at 574 and 592 Bell Road and 5300 and 5304 Bellcrest Drive. Councilmember Potts.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. With all committee reports in, I'd like to move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next is BL 2013-444. Sponsors Pardue, authorizes the acquisition of easements for the Sunny Slope Court stormwater improvement project for properties located at 608, 612, 613, and 617 Sunny Slope Court.
I was close. I understand, but we need to slow down about 15 seconds here. I wanted to thank everybody that had anything to do with this bill, at least. Second. I move for approval.
Got it. A motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-445. The sponsor is Matthews. This abandons 65 linear feet of an existing 8-inch sanitary sewer main and easements, and to accept one new sanitary sewer manhole on properties located at 4001 and 4003 Clarksville Pike. Councilmember Matthews.
I'd like to move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-446. Sponsors Anthony Davis. Readopts the Metro Code to include supplemental and replacement pages containing certain ordinances enacted on or before January 16, 2013. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
All committees in, I'd like to move approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We've got the three resolutions that deal with the pay plans that we moved to the hill of the meeting. The first is RS 2013-711. This approves a new pay plan for general employees of the Metropolitan Government effective January 2, 2014. Council,
Committee reports.
Personnel, Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Chair. RS 2013-711 passed was approved 6-4-0 against.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-0, and I move approval.
Second.
Councilmember David, his lights on. Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution passes. Next is RS 2013-712. Sponsor is Matthews. This approves a new pay plan for employees of the Metro Board of Health. Councilmember Matthews.
Committee reports.
Personnel, Councilmember Banks.
Personnel Committee approved 6-4-0 against.
Health, Hospital, and Social Services, Councilmember Weiner.
Approved 5-4-0 against.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-0, and I move approval.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. And the last resolution is RS 2013-713. Sponsor is Matthews. This adopts a new pay plan for employees of the Metro Departments of Fire and Police. Councilmember Matthews.
Committee reports.
Personnel, Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Chair. We approved 6-4-0 against.
Public Safety, Councilmember Bennett.
Approved 6-4-0 against.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 11-0, and I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. One quick announcement. After this meeting tonight, the Urban Council will meet, and the Urban Council is Councilmembers Berry, Stein, and Maynard. Do we have any other business to come before this body tonight? If not, I will have a motion to adjourn to next Tuesday, June 11th, 2013 at 6 p.m.
So moved.
So moved. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We're adjourned. What?